Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nowadays, you know, we are talking about quantitative data analysis, and we have seen in our two previous lectures that it is an important aspect of your dissertation. So when you are completed with various steps of your research methodology, starting from thinking about a broader area to a specific topic, and within that topic when you are coming up with research questions and objectives, and you are completing with your review of literature, then you decide about your research strategy and design. And once you are in a position to collect data using observational study, interviews or questionnaires, then you will be in a better position to see whether your data is quantitative or qualitative. And if you have quantitative data, how you do analysis, the basic analysis that can give you an idea what kind of data you have, and what is the summary statistics that can give you an idea how to proceed further. And in our previous lecture we have seen that data we can group actually into two, that is numerical and categorical. So numerical data is one in which we can give simply a value to a variable. For example, income, consumption, or distance to a school or hospital. So this can be numerical data which can get any value, maybe continuous or discrete. Categorical variable can have rank, nominal order, or can be dichotomous in nature. And we have seen dichotomous can be when we have, for example, gender as male and female, and we can give 1 to male, 2 to female. These are our codes that we can use to identify our dichotomous variable. Whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, so that can also be a dichotomous variable if you're just asking these two choices. So Muslim or non-Muslim is equal to 1, Muslim is equal to 2, and these are our codes that we can use to identify our dichotomous variables. After that, we have also seen that once we are in a position to collect data and to understand for what variable, what kind of data we have, then we are in a position to simply draw graphs, make some basic tables, summaries, statistics of the variables that we want to analyze. And if that is the case, what we can do, we have to understand when we are drawing a graph or we are making a tabular form of the table, then we have to think of few things in our mind before we drawing the graph. Number one, we have to give a clear, brief and to the point title to the graph, also the table. Unit of measurement must be clearly mentioned in both the axis of the graph, that is x and y, and within the table or below the table when you are making a table. Third, we have to provide the sources. Where do we get the data from? What measurement units that data used? And within source we have to clearly mention that when the source is published, what is the publication source of that particular source. So if it is economic survey, which survey was that? It was 2010-11, 2009-8 or 2009-10 or 2005-6, and it is published by Ministry of Finance, Islamabad, Pakistan. So this full reference or source we have to give in the below or in the end of the table or graph so that one can understand it easily. and if there is any ambiguous term within the table or the figure, we have to clearly mention it below the table or the graph so that one can understand it easily. What does that mean? And we have seen in our simple graph which shows us the x and y axis of in log form, and here we had time or year, that we have had the data of migrants from Pakistan to West Asia, and we have had data of remittances these migrants send to Pakistan from West Asia. So we have to keep in our mind that we have to clearly identify what kind of graph we are making. Is it comparative? It is simple. It is one variable or two variable. Is it our aim to develop some kind of correlation association between variables, or we just want to see the trend of variable? What is the aim? Based on that, we think of what kind of graph or table we can make out of the data which is available to us. So these are the 5 points that we have to keep in our mind when we are designing or drawing our tables and graphs. Today we will continue from here and we will see what kind of various tables and graphs we can have, how to improve them. So for example, this is another example of graph. We have seen in our previous example that we had migrant labor force and remittances. Migrant labor force was in million numbers while remittances was in US dollars. So that can be two different units, and to give them a sense of correlation or association, what we did, we actually take log of both, and then after taking log, when we bring them into similar units, then we put them under a similar in one graph, and then we can analyze that whenever there was a movement within migration, there was an impact on remittances also. Although from graph we can only depict, but we cannot say it with surety whether it is because of increase in migration or some other factors. That can be an aim of your study, but from graph you can get some glimpses of how things are moving. This is another example of graph. Here we are missing some things, we have provided some other things, and we have combined two different graphs with different measurement units. For example, if we see on our left, we have had remittances, so which are labeled as remittances in US dollar millions. So we now know that 1000 means 1000 US dollar, and that is in million. So now we can say easily that this left side is labeled, and below we have put a term years. So 1973 to 2011 are all years. So one year, on year to year basis we have plotted that data. But if you see, we have another unit of measurement on our right side, that is GDP growth of Pakistan in percentage. We have not written, but because we are doing for Pakistan, so we have just mentioned GDP growth in percentage. So 1 is equal to 1%, 2 is equal to 2%, and of course so on, 10 is equal to 10%. So one unit we have in million dollars, the other unit we have is in percentage. So how we can plot them together? In Excel there is a simple command which you can use. Of course I'm not going to tell you the command, you can search it by yourself using Google or YouTube. It can be easily find, or maybe some of you might know it. But what I am mentioning here is that we have plotted the relationship between remittances and GDP growth. There is a hypothesis which exists in literature which explains that remittances bring in economic growth in a country. Provided this or that condition, what kind of analysis you do, how do you conduct that analysis and all, remittances has relationship with GDP. Either it is positive or negative, that we have to see while we do analysis. Simple descriptive says that there is a relationship between economic growth and remittances. So now we have various colors. Blue is for GDP growth and red is for remittances. Now we have to see, according to our criteria, what is missing from this figure. Number one, the first thing that will come into your mind, where is the title? Title must have clarity, it should be clear, it should be brief, and it must be at the top or bottom, whatever you prefer or is the format that you have to follow. It must be clear, brief, and at the bottom or top of the graph. So that is one thing that is missing. Secondly, what we miss is basically where do we get this data. For example, the data of remittances. Where do we get remittances? Where do we get GDP growth? So these are the things that we have somehow missed. So whenever we are drawing a figure or a graph, we have to give it a relatively clear and brief name to it. We, for example, look at this and we try to give a name to this graph just for our own understanding. So let's put a title to a graph. So what this graph actually explains, on left hand side we have one variable which is trend variable of remittances from West Asia in US million dollars. On right hand we have GDP in percentage over a period of time. So we want to see how these two are linked. So somehow we have to summarize it into a nice, precise and brief title. Maybe I'm just giving you an example that we can write, it is a graph which shows a relationship between, I'm not writing the full form but just short form for your own understanding, relationship between remittances and economic growth in Pakistan. In bracket you can write it is from 1972 to 2011. So somehow we are in a position to see the meaning of graph is that we are kind of trying to relate economic growth and remittances, and that is for Pakistan and also for the period 1972 to 2011. So this is how you try to make your graph title crispy, clear, precise and brief, but it must contain title. And one thing that is more important when you are giving a title to it, you definitely have to see the number of your, for example, graph that you are making. Is it figure number 1 or whatever numbering pattern you are following or you're supposed to follow because of the dissertation, particular dissertation style that your department is asking you to follow, or if you're submitting a paper to a journal, then you have to follow the journal style for giving numbers to your figure. So now we have units on both the ends, on right and left side. We have unit for our understanding at the bottom, and we have explained that each line that is blue showing GDP growth, red showing remittances, and now we are at least precisely clear. What was missing was title. We have put title into it, and we have given a specific number. It can be 1, it can be 1.1, it can be chapter wise, so it can be 3.1, 2.1, whatever chapter it comes into. So number depends on how you are, where you are submitting, what is your dissertation pattern, whether you are submitting to a journal or not, whether you are following any pattern or not, and on what number it actually comes in. So this is how you give it a number. And then of course when it comes to source, you have to write it here. Source. So definitely GDP growth rate, remittances in US $1 million, they are both available in Economic Survey of Pakistan. Of course we don't have much space below our figure, so we are just putting it here, but when you're typing in Word or you're typing in some other software, then definitely you'll find some place. And sources of course get a font size lesser than the normal font size. It can be, if it is let's say 12 font size, then sources for example can have 10, 9 or whatever you think. So whatever you think is appropriate. So Economic Survey of Pakistan, which year it got published? So it is 2010, 2011, Ministry of Finance. Islamabad. So now you have to see your one simple figure. If you see it before, it was just an X and Y axis with something on its left, something on its bottom, and there was this simple line which was showing something to you. But now it is a full-fledged graph which actually gives you a self-explanatory thing, even if your reader is unknown to your work. So if you see simply on your left, you have a unit of measurement which shows that remittances are in US $1 million. Then you have remittances graph. On your right you have GDP growth in percentage, and then you have GDP graph. Now you have title. You have also understand that the figure or graph must get a number if you're writing in your dissertation or your research paper, and it also get a source, and source must be written in a way that it also self-explanatory if somebody want to find out that particular source. So it is Economic Survey of Pakistan for the year 2010-11, which is published by Ministry of Finance and in Islamabad. So source is also clear. If you want to explain remittances and GDP for audience to understand it better, then below source you can write GDP is So we are writing actually below, but for our own understanding I am writing it here. But this explanation of unusual terms we have to provide always in the end of the graph, where we write source. So below source we have to write it is gross domestic product, and if you want you can write it as basically the value of goods and services produced in a given time period within a boundary of a country. I'm just giving you an example, telling you that if you use a term which is not known to some people or which is not very common, for example, if I put IMR, either you might don't know what is IMR, so you have to explain it first. It is infant mortality rate. Now when IMR is explained as infant mortality rate, so what is it? It is basically those kids who die before completing their first birth as ratio of 1000 live births. So this is how we actually define our simple unusual terms that are not explained to others, or they are unexplained to others, or there might be a problem for the others to understand. So what you can do, you basically write them right in the bottom after where you put the source. While you give all this explanation, now you will be in a good position to present your graph where you can make sense, when your graph can make sense for those who want to understand what you have presented in your graph and how it is presented, whether it make any sense or not, whether it is understandable, whether it is self-explanatory or not. And if your graph is lacking self-explanation or power of self-explanation, then definitely one or the other thing is missing from your graph. And in our previous examples and also in these examples, we have seen that the title were missing. And if there is no title, how one can understand what is the aim of making this graph? Title gives us an idea that this graph actually want to see the relationship between remittances and economic growth. This is one simple example of how you make your graphs, how you present them in your dissertation to the reader so that it is self-explanatory, easily understandable, clear and precise, and making sense, which is related to your analysis, which is related to your research questions and objectives of the study you are conducting. If this is the way you are presenting your graphs and tables examples we'll see now in today's lecture, and that is the way actually to present these simple summary descriptive statistics in a nice manner that make understanding for others who are looking at your dissertation. So it's a simple graph which contains huge information in a precise, clear and brief manner. And that's how it gives an idea to reader that the person who has written the draft, who has written the dissertation or research project or report, has done quite a tedious job to bring it in front of readers who can read and understand from the graphs and tables. This is how it gives you an idea to make your graph. So for example, if you are going to do a comparative graph, why I called it a comparative graph? Because if you look at the various colors of line, then this green line is basically total, this red line is USA, and this blue line is West Asia. So here we have US million dollars, the lines are explained, and now we have to find out what we have learned in our previous lecture, that what is missing from this graph. Number one, title. Number two, units given but not properly. Lines are not self-explanatory. Source or sources missing. So these are four things that this graph is lacking. If we put these four things in the graph, we'll be in a better position to make this graph easily understandable. So these four things are missing from the graph. One is title, other is unit of measurement, third is lines, that is the graph lines are not self-explanatory, and source is missing. So first, why I said unit not given properly, we have given it here that US million dollars, but what is it actually? In US million dollar, what is it? Is it GDP? Is it per capita income? Is it consumption? Is it price of petrol? What is it? We don't know. Then we have just put legend for various colors here, but we are unable to tell what is it. Is it year? Is it Pak rupee? Or what is it? And again we have written total USA West Asia, but what is total? It is total deaths. Is it total per capita income? Is it total health expenditure? Is it total consumption? So what is it? We don't know. Same is the case with when we said it is West Asia, USA. So US West Asia and US million dollar, what does that mean? We are unable to understand the whole graph. Now we will try to learn how we can make this graph a relatively more presentable. So here we have to add a word called remittances. So remittances in US million dollars. Now this unit of measurement is actually explained. Here we have to say years because the data is on year to year basis. Here we have to say that this is total remittances to Pakistan. This is total remittances to Pakistan from West Asia. So this is actually showing the remittances that are coming to Pakistan from West Asia. This is remittances coming to Pakistan from USA. Now these three things are clear. Here we have to mention source again. Economic Survey of Pakistan 2010-11, Ministry of Finance. I am writing short form so that you can understand. I don't waste time on writing. Islamabad, Pakistan. Normally, if your audience are more Pakistanis, then you don't write Pakistan, but if you are sending your paper to a journal which is international, then definitely you have to mention, because for them it is difficult to understand Islamabad and all. So better to write your place and also country it belongs to. So you have to write Economic Survey of Pakistan 2010-11 or whatever year from which you get the data. It's published by Ministry of Finance in Islamabad, and Islamabad is in Pakistan. Now we have covered most of the things except that we still missing the title. So for title, first thing that we have to tell is figure, which is 1.1, and that figure, now before giving the title we have to brainstorm ourselves to see what this graph is actually telling us. It is comparing total remittances with that of West Asia and from USA. So we can try to write a title to that graph saying that comparative analysis, comparative trend analysis, because it is showing a trend over the year, trend analysis of remittances to Pakistan from West Asia and USA, and this is for the year 1972 to 2011. Now you have put the title into it also. Unit of measurement is proper, title with number is there, you have clearly identified your various lines, that what is the line of green means, what is blue line means, what is red line means, and you have given the unit of measurement in the x-axis also, which is years or time variable, shows annual descriptive analysis of remittances, and then you have also put the source, that is Economic Survey of Pakistan for that particular year, published by Ministry of Finance, Islamabad, Pakistan. So if you want to explain remittances or something, again you can also write it below sources, but because you have already explained in your previous graph, so there is no need, or at least there is not mandatory, that in each graph you explain the same term again and again. If it is a new term, you can explain it if it is unusual also, but if it is commonly understood, then don't try to explain it again and again. Even if it is an unusual term, try to explain it in when it appears first in your graph or table, and once it is explained, you need not to explain it again and again whenever it appears. So this is how your graph will become easily labeled, nicely, clearly, precisely and briefly labeled, and self-explanatory. Now you look and see if this graph make more sense or the one we had in the beginning, with missing unit, nothing on x-axis, not explaining what these green, blue and red lines means, and without title and source. Now first you look at the title. comparative trend analysis of remittances to Pakistan from West Asia and USA. So you are comparing for which year? 1972 to 2011. So for these four decades or around 40 years, you are taking a trend analysis. Now on your bottom x-axis, you have also said that this is not rupees or something else, but it is just the number of years. So for 1972, 1973 and so on till 2011. And your graph has got source also. You have got this data of remittances for West Asia, for USA and for total for Pakistan from Economic Survey of Pakistan, for which is published in 2010-11 by Ministry of Finance in Islamabad in Pakistan. And now your graph is complete, self-explanatory, with clear, precise and brief title, sources and understandable units of measurement, which are self-explanatory. There is no unusual term which you have not explained. Even if it is there, you have already explained in your previous graph. So this is how you can make simple graph for one variable. You can combine two different graphs with different units of measurement. You can take log, make similar comparable units and make simple graph, and you can also put comparative graph with simple numbers and you can also get comparison out of it. So this is also one way of presenting a graph. This is graph which is showing the health system of Pakistan, and I kind of made it in a way that it become self-explanatory if you understand. So first look at whether it has title or not. So it says that it is health system of Pakistan. Now figure has a number and which says that it explains the 3-tier health system of Pakistan. What are these 3 tiers that are explained here? So first tier from here to here, second from this place to here, third from this to this. So you have 3-tier health system of Pakistan which is explained tier wise. Now what is first tier is basically primary, second secondary, third tertiary. What comes under third is teaching hospitals. What comes under secondary is Tehsil and district headquarter hospitals. What comes under primary is basically basic health units and rural health center. And then you have explained in simple rectangle boxes what do we mean by basic health units. What do we mean by rural health center? What do we mean by Tehsil headquarters, district headquarters and teaching hospitals? Now you can also see the source of the table. That is author's own conception based on various reading and studying Pakistan's health system. So by looking at this graph or this figure, we have come to know that this is at least self-explanatory because it is fulfilling the basic criteria that we have set or learned or read in our previous lecture. That is, number 1, it must be a clear, concise and brief title we had in this graph. It must be explained with unit of measurement. So we have unit of measurement in terms of 3-tier system, and then on left we have explained what are these 3 system of or 3 tiers of health system in Pakistan. Then within that we have tried to explain what comes under first tier, what comes under second and what comes under third, and then each simple term that we have used, like for example BHUs, we have explained it that it is basic health unit, and we have also I explained it, what is the meaning of basic health unit, how much population does it covers, what kind of paramedical facilities does it have, how many doctors does it contains, and what kind of services it provides. So we have combined all the things, or tried to combine almost every aspect that makes this figure or graph self-explanatory. So if one is trying to read or go through this graph or figure, he or she be in a position to understand what does that explains actually. And also the source is provided, that after reading various documents by the author, he or she became in a position to draw this graph on his own conception while reading various documents in Pakistan's health system. So it covers every single aspect that we have discussed. Title, precise, brief and clear. Unit of measurements are there. Self-explanatory, explaining simple things. There is no unambiguous term that is not explained within the figure or graph. If it is there, we must have had explained down after where we have provided the source. So this is one such example of how you can make various graphs while you are doing literature review, and you can come up with one page nice summary of the whole things that you have read maybe in 10-20 research papers. We have discussed a lot about figures and graphs. Now we will discuss about tables. For example, normally when you start doing quantitative analysis, what you come up with as your first table is summary or descriptive statistic. Summary of descriptive statistics actually gives you one mean, that is normally called average, then the maximum value of something, minimum value of something, and then the standard deviation. And I have put 1 star on variables and 2 star on standard deviation. It is not linked to significant or non-significant, but I have explained 1 and 2 star in or below the table, where 1 star is actually telling us about various variables that we have used. For example, what is IMR, what is PCI, DHE and HEPC. And with 2 star we have tell that what is SD, it is standard deviation. It is a common statistical term which is commonly used in basic statistics, so there is no need to explain what is standard deviation. Most of you might know. If you don't know, just go and see any basic statistics book, or maybe in your statistical course where you be introduced to a statistical concept, you'll get to know what is standard deviation. So now see in the table what is missing from the criteria we have set. Number 1, title is missing. Number 2, source is given. Number 3, ambiguous terms are explained. And unit of measurement is also given. So for example, what is IMR? It is infant mortality rate per 1,000 live births. So if there are 1,000 children born live, how many of them die before completing their first birthday is what infant mortality rate tells us. Now what is LFM? It is female life expectancy in years. What is PCI? It is per capita income in Pakistani rupees adjusted for the base year 2000. Those who are in economics or financial economics might know the meaning of base year. We will not go into the detail because this is not our topic of discussion. But what we have and try to see is that this is the average per capita income in Pakistan. Let's say 8,662. Maximum is 27,249 and minimum is 1957, around 2000, and then we have standard deviation. So this is how you come up with the descriptive table. What is missing in it is basically title. Here you can put title. So for title, definitely, like you give number to figure or graph, you can also give number to table. So it is table number 1, which says the let me write it here, summary statistics of the variables. So this is the title that you have given to table 1, which actually provides us the summary statistic. And by summary statistics means that it is providing us mean, maximum, minimum, and standard deviation. Definitely, if you go and ask in Excel, you need summary statistics, you get number of other things. You get skewness, you get kurtosis, you get number of other things, but you are not interested in that. And here I just want to make you understand, when you make a simple table, you must know what is your objective of making that table, why you are putting that table. Secondly, you have to understand where this table fits in your write-up, what kind of title does it give that relates to what is your objective of making that particular table. Objective of making this particular table in a research is just to provide a summary statistics. So one must know what is the maximum infant mortality rate. It is the data for Pakistan. So 127 is highest, 71 is minimum. On an average 95. So what is the total fertility rate? So what is total fertility rate? Now you can easily understand that you can come up. Here it is TFR. So total fertility rate. And total fertility rate shows basically that a woman of married age from 15 to 49 years can give birth to how many children. And in Pakistan, the average still shows it's around 5.9, close to 6%. Maximum went in Pakistan to 7.2 children born by a woman, which was in 1970s and 80s. Nowadays it is 3.2, and that's how we can get into various other simple graphs. So for example, if you want to see the calories per person, this is where you can get. So it's nutrition availability per capita. So around 2300 is average, maximum is 2493, close to 25, and minimum is 2136, which is close to 2150. So this is how we will be in a position to see our summary statistics, how we can seek the differences, similarities, and behaviors of various variables that are of interest for us in our research. The basic idea of giving you this table was that it is common to have this summary statistics table. But what we will definitely or normally miss is basically this part, the description of the terms that we used in our table. Are we making these terms clear to others or not? If we have made these terms clear in our first introductory chapter or in the chapter where we have presented our model, then every time one has to go to check what is IMR for IMR to that particular chapter. But if you put it in under the table, then that table becomes self-explanatory. That's basically the idea that one has to understand. And table and figure must not be without title, because title gives them a sense of understanding for those who are reading your dissertation. designing diagrams and tables. How do we design them? What things do we have to keep in mind when we already design? For example, for diagrams we have to keep in mind, does it have clear axis labels? Axis label means that this is x-axis, this is y-axis. So do we have given label to them? So for example, here when we had our remittances thing, we were unable to give nice unit of measurement to it. So label them means providing unit of measurement here. Remittances in US, dollar million. Here we have had time, or we can write years. So first thing is clear, we have to give it label to our axis. And now we have to see bars and their components in the same logical sequence. So it must mean logical sequence. We didn't talk about bar or other diagrams, but we just, or at least I tried to give you an idea of whatever kind of diagram, graph or figure we make, or whatever kind of table we make. These are the common mistakes we do normally. So I try to focus on mistakes to avoid. I didn't focus on various diagrams or graphs, because you can make any of the diagram, but these are the common mistakes that you have to label them. You have to make them that they are on same sequence. Is more dense shading used for smaller areas? You have to see shading also. If you do shading, like for example I use the colors, are they comparable? Are you easily understanding them? So it was green, blue and red, and they were very distinct. You can easily understand them. Have you avoided misrepresenting or distorting the data? Is a key or legend included where necessary? So like for example, in our previous example of graph, we have had 3 lines where this was green, this was blue and this was red, and below somewhere here we have had a legend which says green is equal to total, blue is equal to West Asia and red is equal to USA. I'm just giving you an example, but let me move few steps further and we can actually see here at the bottom that West Asia is blue, USA is red and total is green, and we have given the legend in that particular diagram or graph. So have you avoided misrepresenting or distorting the data? Is a key or legend included? So if I did not include that legend, that is green is what, red is what, blue is what, so a reader is unable to see what is the meaning of green line, what is the meaning of red line, what is the meaning of blue line. So you have to include legend, not to avoid legend. What do we have to include in tables? Does it have clear column and row headings? So if we see that column wise we have had put nice headings, and we have had row wise self-explanatory heading. So column wise we have variables, that is IMR, PCI, go on to HEPC, and then row wise we have IMR's mean, then maximum, minimum and standard deviation, which is nicely covered and explained. Does it have clear column and row headings? This is one thing we have to keep in mind. Are columns and rows in a logical sequence? We have to maintain sequence of columns and rows in a nice manner. Also we have to keep in mind it is best to begin exploratory analysis by looking at individual variables and their components. So we have started plotting simple variable, then we try to compare, then we try to see contrasting variables, we did summary statistics. So the key aspects you may need to consider will be guided by your research questions and objectives. I have already said to you that your research question and objectives gives you a guideline that what kind of graphs and tables you actually need, and then you have to include it. It is also explained by Sparrow in 1989. Specific values, highest and low end values, trends over time, proportions, distributions, these are the things that you can do by plotting your variables within a graph or in a table. Once you have explored these, you can then begin to compare and look for relationships between variable. So you can see the links between variables. So if you make tables and graphs, you can move further to make correlation tables, to make Pearson correlation table, to see regression analysis and all, and you move further. Conjunctions, the point where values of two or more variables intersect. So bivariate analysis you can do. Totals, what are the totals that are there? So you can see in our car examples we have shown that these many people like hatchback, these many people like estate, and these many people like saloon. But in the end we can also give total. So there were total this much male and female were there, and out of these many people liked this and this and this. So what were the total? That is maybe 200, 100, 150 and something like that. And then based on total we can calculate ratios, percentages, differences and all. Interdependence and relationship, we have seen in a graph where we have seen GDP growth is plotted together with remittances from West Asia. Are they interdependent, related with each other or not? So these things we also have to keep in our mind. Before we finalize our quantitative analysis, one thing I would like to say is to focus on these simple things that have been explained in previous 2 or 3 lectures, because these are very important things to consider when you are starting your quantitative analysis. So what we have to keep in mind is the basics of what kind of variables do we have and what kind of analysis do we want, and that is guided by our research question and objective. So data can be for quantitative analysis can be collected and subsequently coded at different scales of measurement, and these different scales of measurements are numerical, categorical, and within that we have various categories. The data type will constrain the data presentation, summary and analysis techniques you can use. We have seen that numerical data is easy to play with, while categorical data is relatively difficult to interpret, difficult to come up with various type of diagrams and graphs and tables. Data are entered for computer analysis as a data matrix in which each column usually represents a variable and each row a case, like in our table we have shown. Your first variable should be a unique identifier to facilitate error checking. So you have to enter in a way that you can check what are the outliers or not. We haven't discussed this outlier and all these things, because when you get data you start playing with data and that will come up with your own understanding. Your data matrix must be checked for errors. These are simple things that you have to keep in mind. Tables must show specific values. Either you make bar charts, multiple charts, histograms or whatever. Occasionally pictograms to show highest and lowest values, so you can also show highest and lowest values. Your choice of table or diagram will be influenced by your research question and objective. That is one of the important thing. The aspects of data you wish to emphasize and the scale of measurement at which the data were recorded. So what is your question and objectives? What is your unit of measurement, and how you have recorded your data determines what kind of table and diagram you are going to make. Line graphs or to show trends, pie charts, percentage components, bar charts, proportions, these kind of things, box plots to show distribution, scatter graphs to show relationships between two variables. So these are various graphs and ways of presenting your basic data in tabular, graphic and diagrammic form. All data should be recorded using numerical codes to facilitate analysis. So for example, if we have dichotomous variable of gender, male, female, or education as literate, illiterate, or residential in rural, urban, then we have to code them. 1 is equal to male, 2 is equal to female, 1 is equal to rural, 2 is equal to urban, 1 is equal to literate, 2 is equal to illiterate. So when you make your variable into Excel sheet or any other software, you put residential status, you put marital status, married, non-married, you put gender, and then you give them codes, and based on codes you understand when it comes to gender, 1 means male, 2 means female. When it comes to education, 1 means literate, 2 means illiterate. When it comes to residential status, 1 is rural, 2 is urban. So all data with few exception be recorded using numerical codes. Income cannot be coded because it is directly numerical value. So we have to code variables nicely, and we have to give them understandable codes for subsequent analysis or facilitating our analysis. Where possible, you should use existing coding schemes to enable comparison. Already if there is something scheme existing, you can use it so that you can be in a good position to compare. For primary data, you should include preset codes on the data collection form to minimize coding after collection. So you have to put coding while you're making your questionnaire, rather than after that. That will create first hustle and bustle for you and create problem for your coding and entering data and analysis. So for variables where responses are not known, you will need to develop a code book after data have been collected for the first 50 to 100 cases, so that you can understand where the data is missing and how you code it. Before we end, I would like to emphasize that please go through this chapter, which is 12th chapter of Sonder book. You can also find number of material online where you can see how to analyze quantitative data. I did not go into much detail of regression analysis, multiple regression, hypothesis testing and all that, because these are the things that you will learn in your other courses that are relevant to your course, or you might have an idea of that. Here in a research methodology course, I just want to focus on that how you can simply get data into a code book to a software, and then you can be in a position to analyze data in a nice way so that you can get your research objectives and questions answered. I stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and Khuda Hafiz.